Zenaida Pilandi Miller. My parents' names are Carlito Pilandi and Concepcion Basalyahe. I was born in Pinamopoan, Capoocan, Leyte, Philippines. When I was growing up, I did not remember anything that was normal. My home, we were living in Pinamopoan, and we were living by the ocean. If you are poor, you live by the ocean because when the high tide comes, it goes with the water. The fun thing about home at the time is that when it was high tide, we get to go fish from our kitchen. And then after that, we would wake up in the morning. My grandpa would come home with some fish, and after that, then he would teach us how to repair the fishing net. And then we would cook the fish, and then the rest of the fish was bartered for rice. We would have to dry the rice outside, and I was the one who was watching to make sure that the birds will not eat up all the rice. We would gather some firewood and bring it to our house, and then we would also walk about a mile to get some water so we can cook, because we didn't have any clean water in our house. We had to walk a mile just to get the water. And then we had to learn how to, pound the rice so that the husk from the rice is separated by the wind. So when it was all separated and it was all good, mostly rice, white rice left, then we would start cooking it. We would cook it along with the fish, and so that was our meal. Typical day. As a child, we were living still by my grandparents' house, and so because we didn't have any toys, no TV or things like that, we would go outside and we would just play by the ocean, and build a little house in there, and we would play, house there and gather some of the seashells, and that's what we would do. At about 10 years old, I saw my mom begging for food on the street. When I saw that, what she was doing, I told her, "Mom, go home." So I decided to get a job myself, working at the Pepsi-Cola plant manager's house to be their maid, one of their maids. Cooking and cleaning, and that's what I did, and babysitting. So anyway, I did that. I got paid, and I would go home and help my mom with the food because my dad was in jail. My dad was in jail because he was beating us up, hanging us up on our necks while we were naked, and hitting us with a belt buckle while we were hanging. We were barely touching our foot while we were hanging, and my brother was hung up upside down with his feet up, and my little brother was put in a sack and hang the sack up in the air and beat him up while he was in the sack. So he was in jail for that, and then my mom did not know what to do. We were little at the time, so I decided to be the one to go out and get a job so I can support my family. While I was doing this, I was also going to school, and had to walk every day to go to school. When I finished 6th grade, that's 6th grade, that's the primary, and then high school, I moved to my grandparents' house again for high school, just because they didn't like the way my life was with my parents. And then at 16 years old, when I graduated from high school, the place was called Pinamapuan High School. And so afterwards, I decided to go to Manila. And when I went to Manila, I did not have any money at the time. I went to the pier. I studied how you get into the boat without anything, without money. I just had a bag of clothes with me. So I studied. I realized that you don't need to have a ticket to go in to the boat. Then I decided to go with a family of children. I went with them, and then while I was inside already traveling to Manila, when I realized that they were collecting the tickets, I hid in the bathroom. And then I just came out when the food was being served. So when I got to Manila, I didn't know where to go. So I walked to Chinatown and looked around, went store to store in Chinatown, and I was looking for a job. And I found a job in this Chinese restaurant where there was the daughter of the owner, was a new mother, and she needed to work in the restaurant. So I stayed at their home, taking care of their baby. I was working 24/7, no day off. I was taking care of the baby, Edwin Lim, that's the name of the baby that I took care of. And I was doing everything, feeding, cooking, cleaning the house, doing the laundry by hand. And no day off. I was being paid 50 pesos a month, which at the time was $1 a month. So, and then because I didn't have to pay for food and lodging, I sent all the money I have back to the Philippines so that my family can eat. As I started getting a raise, my brother went to college and he became an engineer because of the money I sent to him. Anyway, I stayed there for 2 years, and then after 2 years I thought I need to find my aunt who still lives there, and one of my aunts who lived there in Manila, because at the time we didn't have any phones, we didn't have any way of communication, we didn't have any email. So I just knew from before what their address was. On the weekend, sometimes I would ask the Lim family to see if they could help me find the address of one of my aunts. So I went to one of my aunts, and I stayed at Marivic's mom's house. When I stayed with them, they also told me where my other aunt was, Antiponing. I went to her house as well. So I was going back and forth, but finally my uncle, Antiponing's husband, was drunk when he came home. He went into my bedroom, and I got up and I told my aunt, "Your husband is in my bed." And so she was apologetic about that, and the following day he apologized to me, and then I went back and stayed with my another aunt, Tia Tilia, and Tia Tilia, it was a very poor place. She had a bad habit of gambling, and she and her husband were gambling, and so I decided I wanted to find a job. So I worked in this sari store. Sari store meaning variety store that they sell everything. I live at my Auntie Telia's house while I was working at the store. And then the same apartment that they were living, there was this guy who was telling me that there is this man, Stuart Brown, American guy, who just got a divorce from his Filipino wife who was needing a wife. And I said, who is this man? And so anyway, he brought this guy to my Auntie Tilia's house, introduced him. His name is Stuart Brown. Stuart Brown was 21 years my senior. It's like he was too old for me, but this neighbor of ours, his name is Bakuto, last name Bakuto. He said, well, he is your best option right now, because you could not, he is your ticket to go to the US, and where you will find a better place there. So they asked my parents to come over to Manila and meet with him and arrange the marriage. So I married this guy, Stuart Brown, Stuart Mackay Brown. He's Scottish. Anyway, we were married on April 11th. That was when I was 20. We were married in 1974. Then he went back to the US. I stayed in the Philippines for 1 year while the visa was being worked on. Anyway, after 1 year, on April 15th, 1975, a year later, the papers were done. I was able to come to the US with him. He picked me up in the Philippines, and then we went to the US. He brought me here to the US. And the marriage only lasted for 9 years, just because I told the Catholic priest what was happening with our marriage. He wanted me to go out and get a job because I was useless. I was not doing anything at the time, because I did not have any driver's license. I got a job cleaning houses wherever. But one day I was cleaning one of the houses in the apartment area that we were living, and then this guy, Mexican guy that was renting there, I cleaned his house, he raped me. And then after he raped me, I went outside crying, naked, and so everyone called the police, because obviously I'd been raped. Anyway, we had a trial for him, but I got pregnant after the rape, but my steward thought that it was from the rape, and so he wanted to take the baby out from me. So he pushed me in the bathtub and tried to take the baby out from inside me. So I yelled and screamed because it was very painful. I was bleeding. So he pulled my head out. He pulled my neck out from the water and put my face on the carpet. And I said, okay, if you yell anymore, I have your neck. I can kill you anytime. So you stop crying, you stop screaming. So I stopped screaming. And then one day, he started, as I was lying down, he started cleaning his gun, and he was threatening to kill me. And then I went to church and told my priest about that. And he said, I want you to leave him. I'm going to annul your marriage. You cannot move in with him. You have to live with someone else.
you have to go somewhere, you're gonna go back and see him. And so, anyway, I went and got a job at the donut shop in the morning, and a liquor store in the afternoon. I was working 16 hours a day just so I can earn some money. And then I went into the process of getting a divorce with the help of the priest. And then when I finally got a divorce, I earned about $10,000 from working 16 hours a day. I don't even know how I survived all of that.